This video contains every spoiler there is for Hisone to Masotan, and it's probably better experienced if you've already seen the show, but I'm not going to tell you how to live your life, bud. Part 1. The best thing. The best part about Hisone to Masotan is the characters. Only a few of the characters are developed beyond their sort of one or two unique traits, and how you're going to feel about the show as a whole probably depends on how much you like Hisone specifically, since almost all of the emotional development of the show is about her. I love Hisone, so I was very invested in the whole thing. Each of the main cast is female and is primarily defined through one weird and wacky character trait, which is very typical of any anime, but in this it's not just like a harem thing. It's not just like choose your fave waifu with your fave weird character trait. Like, none of the character traits are particularly attractive or particularly, like, extreme in an exciting way. I've trapped this image of Kaizaki-san on my monitor. The main girl's character quirks, by the way, are that Hisone always can't help speaking her mind, even if it's rude or stupid or offensive. Eru is sort of hyper career-driven to the point of being a real jerk to herself and everyone around her. Liliko is just sort of boring and deadpan, but like not in a sarcastic way, just sort of in a way. Hitomi is mom-like and sort of dumb, and Kaizaki, like, wants to be a punk loitering outside of a 7-Eleven. There's an honest-to-goodness lesbian relationship between two characters who are very important to the plot, whose relationship is romantic and dramatic and relevant to the plot, and not played in a way that is obviously meant to be sexually gratifying to the viewer. It is just sort of only for the characters in a way that I found very refreshing. The emotional thrust of the show is really Hisone learning what is important to her, becoming friends with everyone around her, and becoming close to Masotan. And it's all sort of played very slow, and usually not very extreme, except by Hisone, because that is her, that's just her personality. And Hisone's emotional development from the beginning of the show to the end really nicely parallels the development of the overarching sort of physical plot where the girls have to train and go save Japan or whatever. The same sort of emotional beats in each of those plot lines occurs at the same time. Like, the development of Hisone's personality and emotions really is reflected in the development of the physical events that are taking place in the narrative, and it's very satisfying, and it's pretty tightly contained. I really felt that at the end I was closer to Hisone. I understood what she was sort of about. I sort of felt like she and I could see the world through her eyes, and I understood her arc, and I understood her feelings, and it was very nice. And I also felt that way about a couple of the side characters. I suppose how much you're going to get out of this show depends on how much screen time the characters that you personally enjoy seeing wind up getting. There are only really a few main characters in this show, and only a couple of people get, like, real character development, and how much the show is going to resonate with you probably depends on which of the characters resonated with you, and if those characters are not the ones who got the spotlight, then I can understand not being terribly into this. But I thought that everyone was a cutie, and so I was perfectly happy with the ones that wound up getting more development than others, and was just as happy seeing the ones who just got, you know, one-liners and sort of jokes, because those were all played very, very, very effectively as well. Like, Liliko was really one of my favorite characters, and she gets, like, 4 lines in the entire show, but I was always happy to see her show up, and I never felt like she was really getting the shaft, because all of her scene just really burst with her personality. And that's true of all the tertiary characters in the show. Everyone is perfectly presented and really lovingly presented, And you really get a sense that these characters, even though they are very over exaggerated, could exist and interact with one another and have adventures in the way that they do in this show, even if the concept of the show is sort of very outlandish. All of the characters feel very grounded, even though they are all based around an extreme personality trait in the way that real humans aren't. They still felt very, very fleshed out and very much like real humans. I thought the part where someone else tells Hisone that she's in love with the love interest, and she's like, oh shit, I am in love with him, and then just starts running. She just starts running down the street for like a mile and screaming for like minutes, like just running and screaming at nothing, like in a public area. And I thought that was amazing and hashtag relatable. Part 2, the worst thing. The worst part of Hisone to Masotan is the ending. This is because, first, Hisone, in a moment of crisis where her own selfish decisions have endangered not only the entirety of Japan, but quite possibly the entire world, finally understands that the most precious thing to her, and the thing she needs to strive to protect the most in this world, are the friends and Masotans that she's made in her time at the Air Force. In one swoop of glory, she finds the purpose in protecting her friends and sacrifices her own life to save everyone else from destruction. It's tonally a much more serious climax than one would expect from this otherwise mostly lighthearted dragon show, and it wraps up almost all of Hisone's plot threads in a single scene. And then it cuts back to the gang at the Air Force Base, wondering when Hisone will return. Various characters muse that she'll probably be okay. After all, she has Masotan with her. It's sort of cliche and bittersweet, but it shows that Hisone's memory will always live on in the friends that she protected in her final moments. And then it cuts to a scene where it's revealed that she and Masotan are both alive and unharmed. And they've been on the mountain creature the entire time, the entire 3 months, and didn't contact anyone, or maybe they just happened to get out at the exact moment that the love interest was walking by. It really sort of, in the interest of giving us a cute comedy moment to end on, it utterly shatters all of the emotional depth that could have been earned with either just the ending where Hisone sacrifices herself, or the ending where she sacrifices herself and then her friends sort of go on saying that she's going to return sometime, because that's what she promised to do. Because that is just ambiguous enough that you can think, well, maybe she'll return, maybe she really will, maybe she really is okay. She's probably dead, as one would be after getting buried beneath a creature the size of a literal mountain, but she might not be. And her memory lives on in the hearts of her friends. What's more beautiful than that? Either of these two options would have been acceptable, but instead we just have this third grotesque thing where she dives under a mountain for 3 months and then comes back. We could have resigned from the show on an emotional impact or on a bittersweet moment, but instead we resign on just, lol, whatever.